Today we are working on a new story called Penguin Chick. And before we begin our lesson on our skill today, I need you to make sure you get the following items. You are going to need your Reading Street reading textbook. You will need a pencil and you will need a scrap piece of paper. So if you could pause the video and go get those 3 items, that would be awesome. Okay, so today we are learning a new skill today, a new target skill. And this target skill that you're going to be learning this week is called main idea and details. Now, this target skill I find to be a little bit more difficult than some of the other ones that we have already learned. So main idea is what the text is mainly about. It can be stated in the text or it can be implied. So when I look at a text, I look, what is this story mostly about? What is this story mostly about? That's the main idea, okay? I look at the pictures and text to help me find the main idea. Sometimes, or most of the time, your main idea will be at the beginning of a story. When you look at nonfiction text, which remember, boys and girls, that nonfiction are true informational stories, okay? It gives us true facts, true information. Sometimes in those type of stories or those types of selections, they give you many main ideas. You can have a main idea in each paragraph or under each subject heading, okay? So main idea is what the text is mainly about, what it's mostly about. I always think a main idea, the word main starts with an M, and the word most starts with an M, or mainly starts with an M. So that's another clue way to remember what main idea is. What the text is mainly about or mostly about. So what I want you to do is I want you to turn to page 205. Turn to page 205, 204, 205 in your reading textbooks. So we're just going to briefly look at page 204 before we get into our reading. Excuse me. Okay. So when we're talking about our comprehension skill of main idea and details, the topic is what a piece of writing is about. So the main idea, remember, is the most important idea of the topic. So for instance, I have this nonfiction textbook, this nonfiction book called Penguins. Coincidence, that's what we're going to be reading about and learning about this week. Okay, so my topic is penguins. Okay, this whole book is about penguins. It's what the piece of writing is about. It's about penguins, okay? Now, my main idea and details, okay, right here. It's what the most important idea about penguins. Now, I told you that in nonfiction text, you can have more than one main idea with details. So if I look at this page, it says, what are they? Well, my main idea is going to be about what penguins are, okay? And my details are going to support my main idea of what penguins truly are, okay? If I look, where are they? Well, this page is going to tell me about where penguins live. So my main idea would be that penguins live between equator and South Pole. And my details would be, how do my details relate to my main idea? My details have to be related to where they live. Okay, not the color of their skin, not how they swim, because that's not my main idea. My main idea for this part is where they live. So your details have to support your main idea. I promise you, once you work with it, it is a harder comprehension skill, but once we work on it, you will become better at main idea and details. Okay, so the main idea is the most important idea about the topic. Supporting details are small pieces of information that tell more about the main idea. That's what we were just talking about when we talked about where are they, where penguins live. My details have to relate to where they live, which is my main idea. Remember, I just told you that we can't talk about what penguins eat or how they swim or anything like that, because that is not what our main idea focuses on this page, okay, on this section of the book. All right. So what we're going to do, we are going to read the coldest continent on page 205. We're going to read about the coldest continent on page 205. Now, as you're reading and as you're listening to me read, I want you to think, what is this story mostly about? What is this story mostly about? Okay, we find main idea and details because it helps us understand our story better. When we use these resources, when we use these skills that we learn, it helps us to better comprehend the story that we're reading. So as I read you the coldest continent, I really want you to think about what the main idea is, what the most important part of the story is. What is the story mostly about? Okay? All right, so the coldest continent, please follow along as I read. Antarctica is not like any other continent. It is as far south as you can go on Earth. The South Pole is found there. Ice covers the whole land. In some places, the ice is almost 3 miles thick. That's really thick. Beneath the ice are mountains and valleys. Did you ever know that? That in Antarctica, the ice is 3 miles thick, and underneath that ice, there's mountains and valleys? Imagine that. The weather in Antarctica is harsh. It is the coldest place on Earth. The temperature does not get above freezing. It is also one of the windiest places in the world. Now, can you figure out why they said Antarctica is harsh? It's so cold, it does not get above freezing, and it's the windiest place in the world. Not many living things are found in Antarctica. People go there to study for only a short time. Very few animals can live there. Yet many animals live on nearby islands. Seals and penguins swim in the ocean waters. They build nests on the land. Some birds spend their summers in Antarctica, but most of the continent is just ice, snow, and cold air. Now, from what I just read you, did you think about what that story was mostly about? Well, what did they talk about mostly? What were they talking about? What place were they talking about? Well, let's do this together. So if you're at home, I want you to go ahead and get your scrap piece of paper out with your pencil. And we're just going to write down some ideas. You can write the word main idea at the top. And then we're going to write our details. So my graphic organizer looks like this. And if you want to do this at home, if you want to make your graphic organizer look like mine, you can pause the video and go ahead and do that. Okay? All right. So we need to find the main idea of our story. What the story was mostly about. Well, did they talk about Lima, Ohio? I don't think so. Did they talk about the United States? I don't think that was mentioned. What place did they talk about? If you don't know, boys and girls, go back to your story and reread it. Sometimes you might have to reread a text more than once to understand what you're reading. So if I go back to my story, I know that they were talking about the continent Antarctica. And if you read in your first sentence, it says Antarctica is not like any other continent. What do you think? Continent. Antarctica is not like any other continent. Well, did they prove that in the story? How Antarctica is not like any other continent? We live on the continent of North America. From what I read you, did it sound like North America and Antarctica are the same? No way. No way. So our main idea, boys and girls, is that Antarctica is not like any other continent. So we're going to write that in this side, this box. You're going to write Antarctica. Is not like any other continent. That's my main idea. Boys and girls, a lot of times you'll find your main idea in the first sentence of your selection, okay? Now, we have to have details. Now, remember with our details, oops, I'm sorry, I meant to zoom that out. Our details are small pieces of our information that have to go back to our main idea. So if we're talking about how Antarctica is not like any other continent, we have to prove that. How is Antarctica not like any other continent? You could even compare to Antarctica to North America where we live. What is so different between them? So how is Antarctica, from what we read, not like any other continent? What did they say? What did they say? If you don't know, boys and girls, go back to your story. Let's go back to our story. Well, if I keep on reading, it's as far south as you can go on Earth. The South Pole is found there. Oh, this is a great detail. Listen, ice covers the whole land. Well, does ice cover our whole land where we live? No. So that is a great detail that goes back to our main idea. There's no other continent where ice covers the entire land. So let's write that. Ice covers the whole land. Ice covers the whole land. That is one detail, boys and girls, about how Antarctica is not like any other continent. What other fact did they give us in the story about Antarctica? That it was like, wow, are you serious? Antarctica is really like that? What did they say? Think about the weather. What did they say about the weather? Well, let's go back to our story. The weather. It says the weather in Antarctica is harsh. It is the coldest place on Earth. Boys and girls, let's write that. It is. That makes it not like any other continent because it is the coldest place on Earth. So that is another detail that goes back to our main idea. It is the coldest place on Earth. Okay, so now we have two details that support our main idea. Remember, your details have to be related to your main idea. They have to be related to your main idea, okay? So let's figure out one more detail. What other detail can we talk about how it's not like any other continent? What did they say? What did they say? Well, if you don't know, let's go back to our story. So we know this paragraph talks about the weather. So let's go down to our last paragraph. Oh, here we go. Not many living things are found in Antarctica. Boys and girls, do you know what that means? Not many living things are found in Antarctica? Well, does that make Antarctica unique or different from all the other continents here on this Earth? Yeah, it does. Not many living things are found in Antarctica because they can't live there because of the weather, because of all the ice and how cold it is. Remember, it never gets above freezing. So that is a way that Antarctica is not like any other continent. Boys and girls, here in North America, we have many plants and many different animals. In Antarctica, there's not many at all because they can't survive the harsh weather. So that makes Antarctica not like any other continent. So let's write that. Not many living things are found in Antarctica. Not many living things are found in Antarctica. Okay, so we've completed our entire chart. We found out that the main idea of the story is what the story is mostly about. And we find that with the main idea, we have to have details that support it. Remember, the details are small bits of information that go back and relate to the main idea. So our main idea is Antarctica is not like any other continent. Well, let's prove that that's true by our details. Ice covers the whole land. Yeah, I don't think there's any other continent where ice covers the entire land. It is the coldest place on Earth. Yeah, that makes Antarctica unique. And not many living things are found in Antarctica. Boys and girls, all three of those details relate back to my main idea. Antarctica is not like any other continent. So remember, main idea is what the story is mostly about. And a lot of times you'll find it at the beginning of your story, sometimes in the first few sentences. Remember, if you're reading a nonfiction text, there can be more than one main idea because you have different sections. So if I look at this text, these are all different sections. So each chapter has their own main idea and details in nonfiction books. So we have main idea what the story is mostly about, and our details relate back to the main idea. So after you figure out the main idea, ask yourself, was that what the story was mostly about? If it's not, then you probably don't have the main idea. But if you can say yes, then you're probably correct. Main idea is what the story is mostly about. Great job, boys and girls.